Gaurav Samant now joins us live for the very latest. He's reporting from the middle of the war zone in Kiev. Gaurav, we just ran the report of Zelensky alleging that the attack could have been 6 times worse than the Chernobyl 1986 disaster, with Russia vehemently denying shelling at the nuclear facility. What is the truth? What happened there?
So the Russian forces are moving forward towards Kiev and they're systematically attempting to take down any pockets of resistance and take control of critical infrastructure in Ukraine. Critical infrastructure includes power generation. The targeting, according to the Russians, and of course now confirmed by the International Atomic Energy Agency, was not at the 6 nuclear reactors at Zaporozhye, but on an administrative building, a teaching faculty here. Equally dangerous in the sense that not very far from where the reactors are, according to information that's coming in from ground. But the 6 nuclear reactors are safe. President Zelensky is right. Had the reactors been targeted, the devastation and destruction would have been worse, 10 times worse than Chernobyl, perhaps even more, and not just for Ukraine, but for entire Europe. But fact also remains at this point of time, there's a lot of information warfare and disinformation warfare and fear-mongering that's currently on. President Zelensky says Russia has coordinates of every critical infrastructure in this country. That does appear to be a fact, given the precise targeting of military infrastructure or crucial infrastructure that is taking place in this country. But nuclear power plants, Zaporozhye in control, Chernobyl in control. In Mykolaiv, there's a second largest nuclear plant that is in the line of fire now. Russian forces seem to be advancing towards it, according to information that is now coming in. So electricity generation, and that is one way. Once you control it, you can bring a city down on its knees if you cut off electricity supply. They've done that in Mariupol, and the mayor of Mariupol in the east, he has said that they need a humanitarian corridor for mass evacuation because there's no electricity, no water, and no medicines, and virtually no food in Mariupol, and street battles are going on. Similarly, there are reports coming in that there are street battles that are currently on in Sumy. The battle for Kharkiv continues, with both sides claiming supremacy over the city. And the situation does appear to be becoming grim for almost across, as Russian forces from 3 flanks, the south, the east and the north, moving in for the squeeze of Kiev. So situation does appear extremely grim. If power supply to this city is cut off, just imagine how difficult will it be for people to survive. The temperature, even as you and I speak right now, is -3 degrees here in Kiev. Extremely, it's bitterly cold. Water is required. Electricity is required for power generation. If that is cut off, imagine the plight. And that is why Russia is taking control of power generation.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And Gaurav, you are there in sub-zero temperature, reporting from the heart of Kiev at the moment. And as you said, there are a lot of fears for the citizens as well. I want to focus a little on the Indians who are stuck in Ukraine as well. What about the control rooms? Are they active? How is the evacuation and identification of these Ukrainians, Indians stuck in Ukraine, taking place at the moment?
So the information that we have is about 20,000 Indians had registered for evacuation when that process started. The government says most of them have been evacuated. There are some still trapped. The figures that we have, and we've been speaking to a lot of these trapped students, both in Kharkiv and in Sumy. The information we have is a little over 1,000 are still trapped in various places in Kharkiv, and anything between 500 and 700. That's the figure that was given late last night when I spoke to some of these medical students. They've been speaking to their contractors. They've been speaking to some others. Their information is at different colleges and facilities. Some have moved out of Sumy. Some have moved out of Kharkiv. They've come to a place called Pesochin. Pesochin is a small locality outside of Kharkiv. It is out of harm's way, or considered out of harm's way. They're assembling there, and from Pesochin it is hoped that they will get buses to move to Belgorod, which is the Russian border, if there is a humanitarian corridor that is established. So efforts are still on, but reports coming in about fighting taking place in Sumy would then mean that these children will remain trapped even longer. Are there children also trapped in other parts of of the country. We are still waiting to get more information. From what we've been told, efforts are being made, including by the local Indian community here in Kharkiv, in Kyiv, to send buses to Kharkiv. Easier said than done to try and retrieve some of these children.
You know, I'm just reading some of the cries of help that are coming out on social media, and some from verified social media handles as well, of students. One of them is a student, right there, who has put out this tweet at Sumi University as well. She felt that, 5-kilometer radius away, there was a bomb explosion, and she felt that she was almost in the jaw of death. So this is a situation of our Indian students at the moment, and timely evacuation is something that all eyes are on right now, Gaurav.
It indeed is. It indeed is a huge challenge. And a lot of students were also advised when the first advisory was issued to consider leaving this country as quickly as possible. Multiple advisories were issued, but even as children were these are medical students, even as they were in the process of planning their departure, and many aspects went into this, including whether they will have online classes, whether their certificates will be worked on, what about their practical examination. And this is about senior students who are about to get their degrees. They were still in two minds. We got here much before this conflict started, and we were in touch. Today's day 10 of conflict, 5 days before that, when we were speaking to these students, they wanted to leave, but they didn't have clarity. They've spent a lot of money, they've spent a lot of effort, and there was no clarity about their certification. So while they were in the process of leaving, this war started, and it suddenly intensified. There was expectations that there would be a conflict, but the apprehension was it would be restricted to the eastern region, which is the Mariupol,
all right,
Donbass,
we're getting breaking
Donetsk
news coming in right there. NMC giving nod to foreign medical students at the moment. War breaking news coming in. NMC giving nod to foreign medical students. We'll just elucidate further on this news that's just trickling in. Students can continue with their internship in India, giving nod to foreign medical students. Gaurav, can you break this breaking down right now? NMC giving a nod to foreign medical students, saying that these students can continue their or do their internships in India as well.
Some of the senior students, just before their certification, before getting their degrees, were very apprehensive that if they do not carry out their practicals in this country, they will not get their degrees. And for that, doing their internship is extremely important. Now in India, it is being said that they can do their internship in India, and that certification will help them. This is a major step being taken. This will allay a lot of fears and apprehensions about degrees. When I was speaking to these young budding doctors here, senior MBBS students, senior classes, year 4 and year 5, because here 1 year you also have to do your language course. So senior students were saying, if we come back to India, can we come back here to complete our internship? What about 4 years of investment made, not just in terms of money, but also time and effort in attempting to get their degree? What happens if this war lasts longer? Will we get our degrees when they fly back to India? So now it is being said, as you're breaking that news, that they can do their internship in various hospitals in India. What happens to that degree? Because now when you get a degree from here, you have to pass another examination in India for certification to be able to practice in India. Again, that's a major fear for these students. Studying medicine in this country is much cheaper, and this is world-class, according to what experts tell me and analysts tell me, world-class medical education available here at much cheaper prices, and that is why they want to study here, pass another examination, and then practice either in India or in other parts of the world. So now this big story that, of course, Sneha and Milan can tell us much more about this in terms of how the Medical Council is going about the process of giving them the certification or helping them with their internship. But as far as these students are concerned, it's a big shot in the arm for them. They can complete their internship in India, they can do their practicals in India, and then aspire to get their degrees. But there is still a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
For their degrees, they will have to come back. How long will that conflict last?
And
what happens here in this country?
As important as their academics and degrees are at this point, their internships are, and not taking it away at all from any of them. But the situation right now, you are there in the war zone. The biggest priority has to be them being safely evacuated for the moment and no casualties going forward. So at the moment, in this kind of a situation, isn't their focus more likely to be on safe evacuation rather than completing their degrees, because that can happen later too?
Oh, now it indeed is. Now that they've seen the war, it indeed is, now is Jaan hai, Jahan hai. But before that, before the 24th, before the outbreak of conflict, I spoke to students who were at the airport, at the Borospil airport, who were safely taking a flight out of this country. And they were saying, I don't know why we are flying out. There is no reason to fly out. There is panic, and we could have flown out 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. That was the impression, because nobody expected this fight to become so intense and so quickly. And in these areas, people expected that fight to remain in the Donbass region and not in Kharkiv and Sumy and Odessa, which were considered relatively safe. And that is where the thrust of the Russian assault came from. Expect the unexpected is what actually happened in this case. Odessa is where you have a very large number of Indian students. It's a beautiful place, and so is Kharkiv. And yet the attack came in these areas. The students had absolutely no time to react and run away. We were in Kharkiv. We were reporting from Kharkiv just one day before that massive assault happened. We saw the writing on the wall, and by then some evacuation had already started. So there were a number of government advisories. Should those advisories have been instructions, vacate now? It should have been, some kind of a SOS code read. While there was an urgent advisory from the Indian embassy here in Kharkiv saying leave urgently, but that leave urgently message, the war started almost immediately after that. So it is very tricky. Initially, nobody expected the situation to worsen so much and so quickly.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And some of the students who I was personally in touch with also mentioned concerns about the flight tickets at that point of time after that advisory was issued, really shot through the roofs, which is something that most students were not even being able to afford. So it was a bit of a catch-22 situation even for students. And we do understand their plight at this point of time, Gaurav. Gaurav, you're in Kiev right now, and shifting focus back to Kiev, you said that there is a little bit of a concern right there, just like we were mentioning that there are cities that have run out of electricity, out of water, out of essentials, medical supplies. What's your sense for the viewers who have just tuned in as far as Kiev is concerned?
The situation is grim. Fortunately, there is electricity right now, there is water right now, but there is a shortage of food, there is a shortage of medicines, there is a shortage of fuel. Most of the fuel pumps now are shut. Most of the fuel pumps now say that their fuel is only for government and military vehicles and for militia, so that they are able to operate. Where will additional supplies come in remains the big challenge, and this is where President Zelensky wants support from Europe in terms of food, medicines. India is considered pharmacy to the world. They've repeatedly reached out to India to quickly rush in as much of medical supplies as India can in terms of antibiotics, bandages, splinters, anything that would be required in a post-conflict scenario, or right now during a conflict scenario. Anything that's required to help combatants and non-combatants, they're seeking every bit of assistance, including injections, morphine, everything. There's a huge list that has been drawn out asking India to help, asking the world to help. The fear here is that help is not flowing in fast enough.